Welcome to Sounds of Resistance channel. Things have not been going well in Russia since Russian leader Vladimir Putin took the decision to mobilize across the country in order to reduce the casualties of the Ukrainian-Russian war. The mobilization decision of the Russian leader, which caused Russian citizens to leave their country, caused fear and panic in Russia rather than closing the gaps in the Russian army. Vladimir Putin, who could not even stop the incredible progress of the Ukrainian heroes with the mobilization decision, has now started to worry Russia by taking the mobilization decision to the second level. Vladimir Putin has started to work to significantly increase the number of 300,000 volunteer citizens that he aims to supply to the Russian army. While this attitude of the Russian leader caused more Russian citizens to leave the country, the effects of the mobilization decision continue to be felt more and more in the Russian army. Soldiers in the Russian army completely oppose the mobilization decision, because the basic needs of even professional Russian soldiers cannot be met due to the fact that the Russian armed forces are in a very bad situation in terms of military resources. Now the needs of the mobilized Russian volunteers are erupting. Volunteer soldiers who were included in the Russian army with the mobilization decree now provide their basic needs themselves. So how logical is it that the Russian leader still recruits volunteers for the Russian army when opportunities are so scarce? The answer is actually pretty obvious. Vladimir Putin aims to increase the volume of the Russian army with the number of soldiers, as he has not achieved any operational success on the battlefield against the heroes of Ukraine. In this way, dictatorial leader Vladimir Putin aims to intimidate the Ukrainian government by increasing the number of soldiers of the Russian army to millions, and the USA aims to give subtle messages to the West. But in Russia, things are not working out as Vladimir Putin had planned. An event that deeply affected the world agenda proved that this goal of Putin was impossible. Two Russian citizens who wanted to leave Russia because of the mobilization decision decided to embark on a very dangerous journey to leave the country and attracted the attention of the whole world. These two Russian adventurers escaped to the United States and took a small boat to reach Alaska via the Bering Sea. Two Russian citizens crossed the dangerous body of water from the northeastern Russian town of Avekinot to the small village of Gamble on St. Lawrence Island in Alaska. These two Russian citizens who passed through very dangerous areas during their journey both resorted to an unbelievable way to escape the Ukrainian war and risked their lives. This is the last point Vladimir Putin brought the Russian citizens to. After this extraordinarily risky venture, Alaska's U.S. Senators Dan Sullivan and Lisa Murkowski made a joint statement. Two separate Russian citizens sought asylum in the United States, crushing the views of Putin and his entire regime. Murkowski said Customs and Border Protection was not ready for asylum seekers. Customs and Border Protection forces had to send a U.S. Coast Guard ship to a distance of 1,200 kilometers to reach the area where the Russian immigrants landed. Currently, these two Russian nationals are being questioned by immigration agencies in Anchorage. Both Murkowski and Sullivan are working with the Department of Homeland Security to ensure policies and procedures are in place should more Russian citizens immigrate to Alaska. Senators are emphasizing that the Russians passing through the Bering Strait may have serious consequences if they follow this route, because following this route to reach Alaska can be fatal. In addition, Sullivan stated that for such situations, infrastructure such as ports and defense assets in Alaska's border region should be developed. It is a rare case of Russian citizens trying to leave their country in a boat to cross the Bering Sea, a risky venture in dangerous seas that are often stormy, with sharp temperatures and could result in a shipwreck. Before Vladimir Putin announced his mobilization, Russian immigrants often traveled to the United States from Canada. You may remember that 42 Russians tried to enter the United States on the Canadian border in August. However, as the dictator leader's decision to mobilize throughout Russia aggravated the conditions, Russian citizens have already started to produce many dangerous solutions in order to escape from the Ukrainian war. The best example of this is the two Russian citizens we mentioned trying to cross the Bering Strait and trying to reach Alaska. It is not known how long Russian leader Vladimir Putin can disgrace his own citizens, but as long as Russian citizens are forced to fight in Ukraine, it will not be a surprise to encounter such interesting events. The risky voyage across the Bering Sea shows that the Russian military-aged men are desperate to evade Vladimir Putin's call to mobilize 300,000 reservists to fight in Ukraine. Russian citizens simply do not want to serve Vladimir Putin's hysterical plans in Ukraine and are ready to make grueling journeys to obtain asylum status. While the trip from Russia to Alaska is unusual, the prospect of the Soviet Union attacking Alaska to seize U.S. military bases and energy infrastructure was feared during the Cold War. The fact that 2 Russian citizens show that it's possible to cross the Bering Strait increases these possibilities. Some of the Russian lawmakers argue that Alaska should still be part of the Russian motherland. Although this rhetoric was not taken seriously by the Kremlin, Putin had signaled that he wanted to project power in the Arctic region. Russian leader Vladimir Putin aims to renovate old military bases in the Arctic, allow Russians to live there, and create new military bases. These 2 Russian citizens who wanted to escape from military service became a complete embarrassment for Moscow. This incident received a lot of coverage in the European media as proof that many Russian citizens are unpatriotic and afraid to fight. Although Siberia is sparsely populated, there are still men of military age to be ordered into battle. The possibility that some of these men will flee from the Russian authorities and try to cross the Bering Sea makes the Russian administration very uneasy. Because the attempt to cross the Bering Sea, which is the symbol of 2 Russian citizens, can also be an inspiration for the citizens in Siberia. While the situation in Russia is so pathetic, the heroes of Ukraine continue their offensive operations without slowing down. Especially after the air attacks carried out by the Russians in recent days, with the statements of the Ukrainian President Zelensky, the Ukrainian army increased its counterattacks against the Russian troops. The U.S. administration has also made a statement about the attacks by the Russians on Ukraine, which has recently attracted the attention of the whole world. U.S. President Joe Biden said he saw no reason to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin at the G20 summit in Indonesia, after a massive Russian rocket attack on the territory of Ukrainian cities. The U.S. president sent a subtle message adding that he would be ready to speak only if Putin wanted to discuss imprisoned American basketball star Brittany Griner. The U.S. president stressed that Putin committed war crimes and that there are currently no prerequisites for the U.S. government to meet with the Russian leader. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov stated that during the G20 summit of the Russian Federation, they will remind that it's unnecessary to have a meeting between Russian President Vladimir Putin and U.S. President Joe Biden. Diplomatic traffic started to heat up quite a bit. We'll see what happens in the future. Take very good care of yourself for now. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to be notified of new videos. Thank you for watching us.